India. Welcome to India first.
Thank you.
Yes. So just want to know about what is the objective of ICAC, the day it has started, and the vision, and what is the objective you are following here.
So basically, the way I try to explain ICAC to those who are unfamiliar with it or new to it is that think of us as a United Nations of cotton. We have 28 member countries, and basically our goal is to really help strengthen the global cotton economy. We did this in a few ways. One is we provide data and reports. Earlier on in the plenary, our team at the Secretariat talked about cotton trade, specialty cotton, and other developments that affect everybody involved from cotton from farm to closet. Another thing that ICAC does is we also actually work to be sure that all the instruments that measure the quality of cotton and related products are calibrated properly. Because the trade is very complicated and has lots of technical specifications, and if the instruments don't say the same thing everywhere in the world, it creates uncertainty and can cause very serious problems in trade. So we actually run a process to help calibrate the world's instruments. Another thing we do is we assemble meetings like here, the plenary session in India, where we talk about issues of international concern that affect all of our members and other stakeholders. So those are some of the traditional activities. In recent years, we've started really increasing our work in agriculture development and in sustainability and traceability. Looking to the future, we're actually more and more thinking of cotton as an entire system, a value chain that goes from farm to the customer. So we're looking at engaging more with brands in retail, at engagement with the customers, to make a case that cotton is good. And it's very important to understand that. Just before our interview, we had a number of sessions that talked about cotton as a potential solution to greenhouse gas warming. And if properly implemented, cotton can really reduce the burden of climate change globally. We're also looking at engagement with other actors, for instance, civil society groups in the environmental sector, because we do believe we have a strong story to tell. One of the reasons why we're confident is because we are the world's largest repository of information on cotton. We just released a 1,000-page book describing every aspect of cotton sustainability and how we can make the case for the value of cotton, not just only from the customer in terms of clothing, but in terms of the environment and in terms of generating quality employment for millions of people around the world.
So why you had selected India as the host country this time? So is there a particular mind? Why India?
Well, I think everybody knows that India is one of the world's largest players in the cotton sector, not only as a grower of cotton, but also as a consumer. And of course, the history of India and cotton goes back centuries, maybe even millennia. And so India is not only really one of the world's most important countries in cotton, but historically it's been one of the most important countries in cotton. I was doing some history reading and realized that, even back 200 or 300 years ago, India was actually really far ahead of the West in terms of not just growing cotton, but in terms of processing it and creating textiles from it. So in some ways, coming to India is a return not only to the historical home of cotton, but it's also a return to the present and the future of cotton.
So what is the outcome you are planning to have in this plenary meeting for 4 days? So what are you expecting the outcomes?
Well, I think the outcome is that we're actually discussing really important issues. Just before, we had a discussion on carbon sequestration. We're talking about what's going on in terms of the textile trade. And so when we address important issues and we talk about topics, we had a meeting of our panel on environmental programs, on SEEP, sustainability, environmental, and economic performance, where we're talking about how do we define what is regenerative agriculture. And these discussions are really important because without really kind of having a common understanding of where we are on these big issues, then it's very difficult to move forward. So I believe that the conversations we have at a higher level here can really get down to the field and help us do better all along the value chain. And ultimately, of course, the farmer is really one of the more important arbiters about how well we've done. And so I'll quote Norman Borlaug, father of the Green Revolution, and said, in the end, you have to take it to the farmer.
Okay. So worldwide, I think cotton have a very uncertain future, like because of the demand, supply, nature, calamities, lot of things. So in this scenario, how the cotton will exist, their mark in the world, because a lot of people are crying due to cotton. So what do you see the
Well, I think you have some pressures. Obviously, you have environmental pressures. You have greenhouse gases. You have warming, but also, cotton is part of the solution. You also have competition from synthetic fibers, and our market share has been slowly eroding. But I think the point is, and again, this is why these kinds of meetings are really important, is I think we can reverse the narrative. We can make a powerful case to the brands, to the retail, to customers that not only is it part of the environmental solution, but it generates high quality labor. It reduces pollution from things like microplastics, um, that it generates quality employment. And so I think if we engage more with our stakeholders, I think we can push back and actually improve the health of the global cotton economy.
so anything else you want to say to the industry about the cotton, how they should look at the cotton as not as just a commodity, but some important factor because
Well, I think it's important to kind of understand the truth about cotton because there are these myths. Oh, it's a terribly water-hungry crop, and you use lots of pesticides. And if you've gone through the data, those it just isn't true. And one thing I think it's always important is to tell the truth. And we have the data. We're telling the truth. So, from an environmental point of view, from a sustainability point of view, from the fact that cotton garments last much longer, I think there's a sustainability. I think there's a very powerful case to be made in terms of life cycle assessments. Also generates employment for about 24 million people. I spent quite a bit of time in sub-Saharan Africa, and many of those farmers are very poor. And cotton is a cash crop that, for some people, can make the difference between life and death. Because in some of the regions in the Sahel, for example, cotton is the only cash crop they can grow. So I think in terms of, and also we're thinking in terms of how, on the textile side, how do we make cotton more competitive? Uh, how do we design technologies so that cotton can be more suited to industrial use or technical use? So I think in some ways, we're reimagining our work at ICAC, and I look forward to seeing all the things that we can do together to really advance the cotton economy and go from defense to offense.
great. Thank you, sir.
Well,
It was
thank
nice
you.
talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.